networking opportunities, but only 6% of white women were excluded. Latinas believe that they must sacrifice their culture and identity in order to succeed in corporate America. And in fact, in a recent study said that 53% of Latinas said that executive presence at their company is defined as conforming to traditionally white male standards. And a report from Yale Law School found that junior levels of any type of industry, you see quite a few Asian American women, but as you get more and more senior, they're not there. So I wanted to set it up because while we have a predominantly African American audience, we're going to have an inclusive conversation, right? Because we're talking about all women, right? And I think that's going to be part of setting up the discussion about healthy camaraderie. So what I want to do is ask all of my panelists to start off by answering one question. What have you seen that has been a challenge in establishing healthy camaraderie at a firm, at a company? And, or rather, what have you seen that has worked, something that's been built? So Rita, let me start with you.
What I would say is that one of the things that I think I've seen on both sides of this is that all of us want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to make sure we have a support system. Earlier it was mentioned about having a safe zone. And one of the things by coming to this summit, which has been tremendous, is that it opened up my eyes particularly, and some of the fellow women that are here from FedEx, that we need to have a space where we can bring people together, we could have an opportunity to talk, and to give them the information that maybe that I didn't receive when I first started to go up the ladder. And so for me, it's been listening to other individuals, but also answering that RSVP. You know, when you have an important event and you need for people to show up, you need a sister who's going to be able to be there for you. That when you put that call out there, they're going to RSVP you back. They're going to give you that reliance. They're going to give you that voice. They're going to give you that support. But more importantly, they're going to sit you down and they're going to have those key conversations, those conversations that, you know, some other people probably should have had with you to either inspire you or to tell you you're going to be in 3 stages in your career and also 3 stages in your life. We're either going to be bridled, broken, or blessed.
Wait, say it again.
Let me repeat that.
Say it again. Hold on. I'm taking notes.
You're going to be in 3 stages in your life, whether it's personal or professional.
Okay.
And I'll start off by saying you're either going to be broken, bridled, or blessed. And each one of those stages, you're going to need somebody there for you. And you also have to be in a position where you recognize which stage you're in, because it's going to help for you to make those right decisions. And when you're broken, it doesn't mean that you can't get back up. It doesn't mean that you can't do the things that are your purpose to do. And the word I said was your purpose to do. The other thing is when you're bridled, you have to realize that sometimes people are holding you back for a reason. Sometimes it's because you're not prepared for that new opportunity. And then there's other times you're bridled, you know, when a person's on a horse, you want to gallop pretty fast, but somebody's pulling you back. You got to realize that sometimes I got to get a new horse. I got to get a new horse because it's time for me to move forward. But you got to have enough self-awareness to identify what stage you're in. And when you're blessed, you shouldn't just sit in that seat. You really should without blessing someone else.
Oh, wait, what?
So for me, that's why it's so important that we do things like this, that we reach out to our fellow sisters of any, whatever race they are at, in order for them to know what they are worth and what the potential and the possibilities are. And Ramona, I hope you don't mind me doing this, but our first African-American CEO of FedEx.
Wait, stand up. Come on now. Come on, wait, hold on.
Say it again.
Hold on.
Say it again. Say it again.
Ladies. Ladies.
Say it again.
Ladies. Fantastic.
And the reason why I said that to you guys is that you cannot be afraid to let somebody else's light shine when yours is shining.
Come on. That's fantastic.
You have to be able to do that to be effective.
That's fantastic.
So I'll stop right there because I can keep rolling.
Okay. We're going to roll back to you, though. Najuma, let's talk about it. What have you seen that's worked or what have you seen that's been a challenge?
I think what I've seen that's worked for us has been, and I talked about the employee resource groups, but it really is that opportunity for us to have, as you talked about, Rita, that safe place for us to connect with one another, and particularly people who don't necessarily look like you or come from those same places as you are from, because those are the individuals that are making the decisions. So let's be really open about this. We have got to, and I've seen us do better, get really comfortable with the differences that are around us. I work for a multinational corporation with different folks who come from different backgrounds and environments, but there are commonalities that we all have. And so our ability to lift each other up and to open ourselves up is something that I think that is critically important and has helped me. So that's great. What have I seen that's been a little bit more challenging? Just not enough of us, right? There's just not enough of us to do the work that we want to get done. And so that means that all of the hands have to be lifting this boat. So we have to teach others. So I've got the Dell contingency with me on how to do that. So one of my responsibilities, I think, as a leader in the organization is to get everyone prepared. And everyone doesn't have to be in a leadership position to do that, right? There are people who have power, as you heard Gail talk about, who are very informative. Those are some of the most influential people in this organization, and it is the acknowledgement of all of those differences is the micro. It is the acknowledgement of all of those differences and the leveraging of all of those people that I think are extremely important. But the other thing that I think has been important is we are much more comfortable with ourselves. I think that in 2020, we are who we are. We are owning ourselves and our passion and everything about us, and we are bringing our true and authentic selves to work. Thereby, everyone is getting the best of us. That's a change. I would say when I started 15 years ago, that did not happen. You didn't see natural hair. You didn't see loud colors. You didn't see pants. You didn't see jeans. Everybody had on a Jones of New York suit. We all looked the same. And so, you know, right, sis? And so that has changed. And the fact that we can be more comfortable and bring our true, authentic selves is really beneficial. So those are the things that I
love that. Alva.
Yes, so we have several groups at Toyota that's starting, thanks to one of our executives, Billy Joe Johnson. She started a group with women, African-American women, because she realized the lack of African-American women in management positions. And she is off to Japan, but her legacy, and she's still working at Toyota, but she started this legacy there, which I thought was really, really, it's very unique because it's bringing together African-American women and teaching them what they need to know about the corporate politics. So sometimes you think you're doing a great job, but you don't understand the politics.
Right.
And you've got to understand the politics in order to get to that next position and how to navigate. So that was one of the things. We also have we've had mentors in to specifically talk to some of our African-American women that we feel that have a lot of potential. And so those have been some of the great things. We have a National Women's Conference. We need to make that a little, get more African-American women involved in that and be front and center because there are a lot of executives in order to showcase their talent for that. One of the, and to being here at Black Enterprise, I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity for the first time to have 30 African-American women from Toyota here. And sometimes this is some of their
30.
first time. Because this is one of maybe only one other conference that give African-American women is specific, the agenda to help. So it's really a developmental and networking conference because you may not get everything that you need from inside.
Right.
One of the disadvantages I've seen is when we are not our sister's keeper.
Yep.
And I've had to learn myself. I mean, we all make mistakes, but you've got to understand and respect the position. I mean, there are a lot of things behind it, but you've got to understand and respect the position that people are in, and you've got to respect that and don't make judgments, but make time to talk to those people and get to know what's going on. But if we're all going to be able to help each other and develop each other, you've got to be your sister's keeper.
Yeah. Right. I love that. So when I opened, I talked about how we're talking about healthy camaraderie, right? But let's talk still a little bit more about business. There's a Fortune 500 list, right? There's only 300 women. There's a Fortune 500 list. 33 women are CEOs. And as you did so well, we are so fortunate to have the only, not Fortune 500, but the only Fortune 100 CEO with us, right? So Rita, I want to talk to you about what is it at FedEx that's happening where not only do you see this rise, but we talked about it, that you have been with FedEx 27 years as of December, right?
December.
All in internal audit.
All in internal audit.
So you've seen some stuff and you audited some stuff. Yes, you have. So let's talk about that. What is going on at FedEx that's building healthy camaraderie?
I think for me, one of the things is that having that open door policy,
Okay.
where you can come in and have those key conversations.
Okay.
The thing that we have taken just from being here at Black Enterprise, we were talking about being your sister's keeper. And so we've tried to merge what FedEx stands for,
Okay.
which is actually, in my space, is trying to protect our biggest assets, which is our employees, our customers, and our brand.
Okay.
And so for me, those three things go right into protecting your sister.
Okay.
And being
Okay.
a part
Okay.
of that whole process, because we've developed, and we have 43 FedEx ladies here today.
Oh, okay. Well,
43.
here we go. Right.
And we started off with just a small few of us,
Okay.
but we saw the value of what Black Enterprise brought. And so we took the initiative to make this something that the corporate FedEx could get behind. And so
Okay.
we got those sponsorships. I'm actually serving right now on the FedEx Services Diversity and Inclusion Steering Committee, which looks at all of the various aspects of FedEx and how do we encourage more promotions for not only women of color, but men. Not only the LGBTQ community, not only looking at it from a military perspective, because we want FedEx to look like the community.
That's good.
And as part of that, we have to make sure that we're providing our employees with that opportunity to grow. And so going back to your question, Debra, I think the biggest thing that FedEx is doing is giving us the opportunity to see the possibilities.
Okay. But let's talk a little bit more about that. You talked about coaching circles.
Yes,
So
coaching circles.
tell the audience about the coaching circles.
What I'm doing right now, FedEx, every 6 months, they enlist some of the executives, whether you're on the MD level all the way up to an EVP level, to actually do coaching sessions. And so I'm actively doing one now, and it's about authentic leadership. And so they allow for 40 individuals to sign up every month to have a one-on-one conversation with me. And it's for 2 hours.
Wow.
They can ask me whatever they want to ask me. But if they ask me, I'm going to give them my honest feedback in the process. And so I have been committed to do this for 6 months. And then also I have another young lady right here, Ms. Cheryl Orange. She's an MD of our IT department. She's also doing them. And we go across. Some of us are doing them in Memphis, and some of us do it in other locations across the nation. And every 6 months, they switch out and they get someone else, another round, 4 to 6 executives to do this. Because it's extremely difficult to be able to meet with everybody on a one-on-one basis.
Right.
And you guys can imagine, we get emails, we get people wanting to have those conversations, and you want to connect with as many people as you can. So this was an opportunity to do that and to provide it in a setting where every month, 40 individuals can sit down and talk with you and get coaching advice about their career, about personal, whatever they want to do. And with mine being authentic leadership, I'm talking about how do I still be successful in an environment that was really not created for me, and still be authentic to who I am as a leader and as a person.
I love that.
And so you have to embrace who you are. You have to be able to change as well and be flexible, but you don't lose your core. And I think that's the part of leadership, and that's also going to help you to identify what your brand really is. And for me, it's been one of the most productive tools I've ever done, is knowing who I am as a person.
Oh, I love that.
And knowing what I can give to someone else. So I'm always trying to connect with people. And I may not even know you, but I'm from the South. So I'm going to ask you a question. If I see something, you may be wearing something. It's a way for me to start a communication and a question, and to connect with you as much as I possibly can. I think FedEx gives us that opportunity to do that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Najuma, we talked about Dell being data-driven, right? And there's a lot of generations in large organizations. And so what have you seen in building camaraderie in an organization that large with so many generations of women? Can we talk about that? And you're going to have to give a shout out. How many Dell women are here?
Got 20 Dell women?
20?
20, yes.
Okay. All right.
Which do we have left?
Okay.
Say that. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. So we got 27 because our sister company, VMware, they also had a lot.
So we have 27 ladies.
So almost
27.
We're
Okay.
not competitive, not at all. No.
Right. And Najuma, let me also add, you've been with Dell 20 years.
20 years.
Right? Okay, so let's talk about what you've seen and how do you build healthy camaraderie when you have all of these generations?
We get asked that question a lot, and what I can say, I was 18 years in HR, is people are people and they're the same. The things that they expect very much the same. They
Okay.
want honest feedback. They want to have a candid conversation. They want to be in a safe environment to do that. It doesn't matter what generation you come from doing that. People want to be recognized and acknowledged and rewarded for the work that they do. It really doesn't matter from a generational perspective of what that means. The one small difference that I do see is, like, if you think about when I started my career 20 years ago, this level of camaraderie and having friends at work, we didn't have that. We were working. And so that's a little different. And so that ability to communicate and to connect in a more personal level is different. And it's something that I had to get my head around. So I called my nieces and nephews to help me understand. It's really about, let's not forget what you're here for. You're still doing a job. You have an expectation. You need to deliver. That is the number one thing. If you also have the ability to develop personal relationships, that's fantastic, but that's not why you're here. And so my ability to help young folks or other folks understand that here's your primary responsibility. You need to deliver. You need to understand the common goals and objectives of our organization, and we all need to rally around that. You could go have a cause at home, but at work, you work for the organization. And so you should be representing the organization in everything you say, everything you do, and how you represent yourself. And so that's critically important for us to understand. Because again, I just talked about individuality. And people think, well, is that a conflict from me being who I am and bringing my whole self to work? No, we all have choices. But at this place, you choose to be a part of, for me, Dell Technologies. And we are a culture of relationships, of community, data-driven and fact-driven, and so I embrace that and I understand it. And when you hear me talk publicly about it, that's what I talk about. Now, in other times, I may be talking about the Boys and Girls Club, but that's on my time. Right? That's what I do. So it's really important for you never to understand that, because I think one of the mistakes that the younger generation, and I don't even want to say younger, some people will be forgetting where they are and being a bit too comfortable in the environment that they are in. And so you really need to understand, particularly if you are a person of color, that there are just different standards. And I don't worry about that. People are like, oh, it's different. Absolutely. Welcome to the real world. This is our world.
Right,
and
exactly
so it's just how do I navigate and work through those differences and understand how I can be the most effective. That's what's really important.
Right. Can we stay there just a little bit longer on that? Because I think this is really important. You've been at the organization for 20 years. And when you use the word friends, and we're talking about the millennials, I mean, friends are people that you've never met online somewhere, right? And so if they think they're coming into the workplace not wanting to stay a long time, and they get there. So is there anything else that you think that how to support camaraderie with that group, right? That may be looking for friendship because they've got a different definition of friendship than we have.
One of the things that we did very similar to Rita, what you were talking about, is we created these communities because it was so important for them to connect with one another. And so we created small communities, and I asked some of the women sitting in here to help me manage some of those communities so that they could have that connectivity to find commonality. We use technology a lot. They live their lives through social media, or they live their lives leveraging technology. So if you're out looking for that talent and you don't provide them that opportunity, they're not going to stay long with you. And so we try to adjust ourselves. We do a lot of flexible working. We do a lot of communication through video conferencing. We give them a lot of flexibility so they can do things that they're passionate around, a lot of working in the community, and we celebrate it. And we have ways that you could do attaboys. And we have, because they're I got a reward because I showed up sometimes. And so we do, but that's okay. It's really, we acknowledge you because you're valuable. And how do I provide a system for everyone to do that? So I think for us, it is providing the communities where you can learn from them as well. Because here's one of the learnings that I had. Like, I came in as a senior person because they come and they talk to you, and I'm sure Alva,
Right.
they want to talk to you all the time. What can you tell us? I'm like, well, let's just talk, and I am who I am, and if you've ever talked to me, I am my true, authentic self, no matter what I'm doing, where I am. But I needed to learn things from them. I said, I'm willing to mentor you if you will mentor me as well.
Ooh.
I don't know how to have this conversation. I don't
Okay.
know what's important. I'm going to a university campus. There was a way where I thought I was cool, but they're like, not so much. And so help me when I'm going to those
Yeah.
communities. Then they're like,
Yeah.
"What? You value my opinion and my perspective.
Yeah.
You value what I bring to this table and where I can do." I'm like, absolutely. And so by changing it a little bit and making it a joint partnership and not just me mentoring them, they
Yeah, that's
mentor me
nice.
as well. It's critically important.
Yeah, I love that.
Can I add one other thing to that?
Sure,
Debra?
sure.
But the
We'll get
other
to-
thing, I totally agree with all of that, but the other thing I think we also have to show them what the reality of things are. And sometimes they want to move really, really fast.
Right, right.
You want to support them on what they're trying to accomplish in their dream, but you also have to give them a sense of accountability with the realization and working through that with them and listening, definitely listening to how they can add value, but how you can add value to them as well. But you got to have that sense of reality with them as well.
Okay,
If
I love that.
I'm sorry. I think absolutely, if we balance that with what does success look like?
Right.
Okay.
If
All right.
From their
success is not
viewpoints.
driven by a title or a job, there are a number of ways that you can do that. I
Right.
think that will, you could go lead the network group. You can do this community event or activity. You
Right.
can lead this project.
Yeah.
There are so many different ways that I think we, as ourselves, we need to be more creative of what success looks
Right.
like to them when we're balancing it. Because this is what I learned from my niece. She says to me, "You tell me a lot what I can't do. Can you tell me what I
What I
can
can
do?
do.
Can you
Okay.
tell me what I can do?" And so
I
I think
totally
let's
agree.
Right.
balance. Let's balance
I
it.
love this. Perfect. So, Alva, let's talk about what drives you and drives Toyota. You see what I'm doing? Thank you. To continue pushing the envelope for women, especially African American women at Toyota. And I think we were going to talk about development of women. You thought that that was pretty key in terms of camaraderie.
Yes. So one of the key things I do want to say to every woman in this room is something that's really, really important just for yourself and developing yourself is you've got to understand who you are as a person. And you've got to love yourself, your unique, authentic self. And once you have that down, then you're not competing with other women, but you're working alongside them for a common goal. And everyone may realize that, you know, I may not be a vice president, or, you know, everybody's on the same road trying to be vice president, then you're going to be knocking each other down, as opposed to you understand who you are, you have respect for who the other person is, and we're all going to work together to maybe get this person in this position.
Okay.
Right? So, and that way, you know, you're helping to develop each other. When I look at the women in Toyota, there's so much talent out there, right? But if we're all competing for the same spot, then we're never going to get there because we're pushing each other out.
Right.
And then
right.
someone who doesn't look like us will be in the spot. So we have to, you know, with a lot of developmental things that we're doing now, if we just kind of put our heads together, right, and say, okay, we're going to do this, and we're all going to respect each other. So one of the things, Debra, is really, really important that we have respect for each other and help
Okay.
each other
Sure.
to get to where we want to. So that's really important in the development. I wanted to say that because sometimes we don't believe in who we are. And if we don't believe
Right.
in who we are and appreciate who we are, then most certainly we don't appreciate the other people, and then there's jealousy,
Right,
right?
right.
And we want to be careful. We don't want to judge. We just want to be able to help and be there to help our sisters
Yep.
out.
I'm going to stay with you, Alva. That was great. Absolutely. I want to stay with you, though, on that, because we find ourselves as Black women in situations where we are encouraged to compete with each other, where we're compared to each other, we're isolated from each other. This panel is to try to figure out how do we go back and make changes. So when you're talking about that, what other thing have you seen, what are you all doing at Toyota that kind of breaks down some of the comparison and the isolation?
So one of the great things that Toyota did is we're all in one place now in Plano, Texas.
Okay,
So,
there we go.
At one time, we were, our sales organization was in Southern California, and our manufacturing was in Kentucky. I always say Cincinnati, but it's Kentucky, right? So across the bridge. And so now, and so there was a lot of competition because,
Right.
you know, we're on the West Coast and other people on the East Coast, and we're all doing the same thing, but no one's talking to each other. But now that we're all together, and we do have our Toyota Financial Services here as well, and so you're a part of us. So, but we weren't talking, but now we're doing a lot more. Now we have to collaborate and work together. So we're slowly becoming one. And before we were we were so spread apart. But I think we're doing a really great job now of becoming one Toyota. And that was the whole mission, to become one Toyota, work together. And we're starting to realize that there's enough space for everyone to be successful. So that was one of the main things.
Okay, perfect. We're going to have some questions. So feel free to go to the mic, and we're going to rock and roll with some questions. Let's talk about camaraderie that's not just in our workplaces, but amongst each other, right? Because we're in a group of 1,000 women, right? And I have to tell you, I'm quite fortunate because there are several women in here that I know, and I'm afraid I'm not going to do all the shout outs. But you've got a woman, Danielle Pemberton Hurd, who's at Diversified Search, you know, and doing searches. She never had a search for me, but she always thought about me, right? And she was always championing me in my journey, right? I mean, just, hey, we don't even have this search, which you all should be using Diversified. We don't have this search, Deb, but I thought about you. Call this person who's my competitor because I believe in you so much. What else should women be thinking about in terms of not just in our organizations, right, but when we're here with 1,000 women? You know, do you have any thoughts on that about just camaraderie overall?
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
for me, I think that ability to connect, relationships are so critically important.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy when I walk down the hallway and people can't have common courtesy and say hello.
Right.
I don't understand that. I don't understand it in the hallways at work. Why we're so afraid to look at each other. I don't understand it.
Right.
So if you're in this space where you have
Yeah.
this opportunity to meet these phenomenal CEOs walking around in the hallway,
Right.
and you don't take the opportunity to speak or at least introduce yourself, what a tremendous miss. I don't understand that.
Right.
So I think that one of the things that we need to do is we need to work outside of that. And I know personally, I had a hard time when people are like, we call it one-on-one time. You need to go meet with people personally, one-on-one. I'm like,
Right.
I don't have time for dog and pony. I have a job to do. But my job is critically important to have those relationships established before I need them. And so I think what you want to do is you don't know who you're going to meet in these environments. You don't know who's going to be
That's
able
right.
to help you. The first time I attended actually this event was last year. MTJ, Michelle Taylor-Jones, and I did not know each other. We work for the same company, but
Exactly
we took
right.
an opportunity to connect with one another. She has been so critically important to me as I've moved into this new role and helping to share her Rolodex with me, which she did not have to, Miss Kim sitting over there and others.
Right.
She introduced
right.
me to these women, and these women are helping me to manage myself. And you don't know when that's going to happen. You do not know who you're walking up against. Don't look at them externally. So really make sure that you take that opportunity to connect with these women. And don't be afraid, because who says no? I mean, they all say, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Because someone helped me,
Right.
and they gave me that opportunity. So I think that's
I have to tell you, and Michelle and Kim have
Yes.
done the same for me. So, ladies,
Yes.
we're going to go to this question, that question, and then we're going to see what we're doing with time. Yes, well, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Tell me your name, tell me where you're working, if you're currently working, and tell me where you're from.
All right, Felicia Foster, BMO Harris Bank from Chicago.
Okay, and we got any women from Chicago in here?
Yeah.
3? Okay.
And so I am loving the camaraderie of Black women and the Black girl magic that we have going on at this conference. However, I think one of the things that we often face but isn't oftentimes talked about is some of the issues that we have with interacting with one another as Black women. And so my question is, have you experienced some issues where you've wanted to connect with another Black woman, or you've wanted to be mentored or engaged with them, but that connection just wasn't there? Or there was something that was a barrier that was placed in your pathway by a woman of color, and how did you overcome that?
So, ladies, which one of you want to take that one?
I'll take it.
Okay.
My answer would be, of course, I've experienced that, and I think most of the ladies in this room have.
Absolutely.
You know, I call it that crab mentality, you know, where you have someone that's up high, you're trying to reach up, and everybody's pulling each other down because
Yeah.
you want to be that one person that's been identified as the one.
Yeah.
And so for me, unfortunately, I've had that experience from the time I started my career to where I'm at now. But I think the piece that helped me to get through this was my mentality. It was, I don't really care how they behave, it's how I choose to behave. And there are going to be ladies that are going to be very receptive and they're going to help you 100%. But there are going to be others that's going to have the attitude, I got mine, you need to get yours. And so you have to figure out how to navigate around people. And in my case, sometimes I got to go right through you. And you got to have that courage to do that. And I think a lot of time what holds us back is just simply fear. It's fear of the unknown, fear of being in an uncomfortable space, and fear of offending someone. And what I've always been told is that you can say whatever you want to say. You just got to learn how to say it so that
Love
that
that.
person can receive it.
Love it. That's
And
great.
there are points in time when it's not appropriate for you to make your point in the midst of a lot of people, because what's going to happen, that person's going to snap right back at you. So you have to pick the time and the place. And so once you learn how to do that and read the room, that's key to your success, is learning how to read the room and to read people. And once you can make that connection on when's the right time to have a conversation, because sometimes it's not intentional. They don't even know that they've done something or that they didn't do something that you might have been expecting for it to happen.
That's great.
And so you have to go with it with a mind and a spirit of thinking that that person's not really trying to intentionally hurt me or to do something that's going to damage my career.
Right.
But if they are trying to do that, you got to figure out how to change it and how to reframe it so that when they give you a crown of thorns, you go get your glue gun, you put a little wrapping around the inside so it can fit on your head, you bedazzle it with whatever you need to do, and you put that crown on your head, and the next time you see that person, you tilt it to the side and just say, I got this. Regardless of what you tried to do, I got it.
I love that.
Okay.
Our next question. I'm going to go to the next question. Yes. Yes. What's your name? Where are you from? What's... Perfect. Perfect. Okay.
And Rita, I love the coaching circle. I get asked, as my colleagues do a lot, about how do we mentor more people. Can you give more insight? Because I'm looking to develop something that we can reach a larger audience with a coaching circle kind of approach. Are you having multiple sessions with the executives at the same time? Just give us more insight, because I think that's a great way to reach so many people.
What we're having are multiple sessions. And so I think right now we have like 5 participants here, and each has a specific topic of which they're going to talk about. And as I said, mine is a thing at leadership. Someone may have having passion. It could be something different, whatever that person wants to do, whether it's branding or thinking along the lines of how to prepare your career forward. And we align through the Human Resources Department.
Okay.
They identify the officers or the MDs that can participate, and they ask in advance. If you can't do it 6 months, they don't forget. They circle right back to you and say, are you available now? But it has to be intentional, and you got to have the support from top management to be able to do it. And the individuals that are participating, they're doing it out of sincerity because they want people to be successful. And it is easy to sit there for 2 hours. A lot of times that 2 hours goes fast.
Wow.
And when you start signing up, you're thinking that it's not, but it really does, because there's so much need for information. And not only information, for someone to inspire them, to bring them to that point where they can think about their career. And I always tell people, you need to be thinking not just about the path that you're on now, but the path that you want to be on as well. You can dual task, and you can be in that position where you can show people what you're capable of doing, but also show them that potential. And sometimes when you're in those meetings, some people don't really see their potential, but you're there to try to help them to see it and to let them know that you're able to do this. You just got to have the right connections. And I also offer after those meetings that if there's someone that wants to sit down with me one-on-one, I make that available as well. And depending on that individual, what I see in them, I may also say, I'm going to mentor you for a period of time. And so I think accessibility is one of the key things of being in the leadership role that you're in. You're not there just to sit there. You're there to make a difference and to show other people what their purpose could be in life. And so when I leave FedEx, it's not going to be Rita did all this because of her ability to do audits and fraud and all of that. It's going to be, I'm going to leave FedEx and there's going to be a line of people that are there to step right there in my shoes.
Love it.
And I'm not fearful of that.
Love
I'm
it.
asking for people to
Love
do
it.
that.
That's
Ladies,
awesome.
I want to throw it to Najuma and Alva for 1 second. I'm going to go to the last two questions. We've heard about mentorship. Dick Parsons used to say, the mentor picks the mentee, not the other way around, right? Would you two agree with that? And if that's the case in building camaraderie, what is it that you see in someone where you would say, you know what, with limited time, I'm going to be your mentor? Because I think that's building that camaraderie. What do you think?
So it's really difficult with the mentor choosing the mentee in our particular situation.
Yeah.
So then some people may never end up
Okay.
with a mentor.
Right.
If they do that. Right now, you really have to be a little bit more aggressive, and that's my opinion in the current environment that we're in.
Okay.
And you really got to go and ask individuals that you want to mentor you. So
Okay.
that's first.
So staying with that, what's the quality of the mentee that comes to you and says, I want you to be my mentor?
So the quality of the person is already kind of knowing, they've already seeked out the current environment, they kind of know where they want to go, what they want to do, and sort of kind of helping you in a direction of, I need you to help me this way, or, and inviting, so kind of, and being very open for feedback.
Okay.
Being very, very open. So
Okay.
if you're going to be candid with them, it's got to be a person that's going to be very open to
Okay.
what you got to say. 'Cause
Perfect.
It may not feel great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Najuma, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, there's a couple of things. I think there are mentors and then there are sponsors. I think those are two very different things. So I think a mentor, as you were saying, is typically it's very specific. I'm going after an objective, and it's finite. It is not forever, and so they can't end. For some reason, I think people think that they have to last forever. You may develop relationships and talk about other things, but it's really when individuals come to me with a plan and a very specific ask, I am much more receptive to being a mentor at that time because we've got limited time. From a champion perspective, I choose the people that I champion.
There you go.
And
Okay.
so I select the individuals that I champion based upon their capabilities, where I think they're going in the organization, and I have the benefit of sitting in several meetings, and so I see the needs of the organization. And so since I am my sister's keeper, I think it's my responsibility to ensure that some of those spots are folks that look like me. And so I will make sure that I look at individuals' track records and I understand what their capabilities are and their willingness to grow with the organization, and I will champion them. That means I am personally putting my own brand and reputation on the line for them to get this opportunity, and I am relentless about it. It is not just a casual conversation.
There we go.
It is every time I see them. What are you doing? What's going on? Did they move? Did you advance them? Did they get that increase? I didn't see them at this event. What was going on? And so I think that we have a unique responsibility to do that because we're sitting in those rooms. And so I think those are differences. And I think you got to have champions and you have to have sponsors. But I choose those individuals that I champion. The mentors, I'm a bit more open, but I'm like you. I like to do a bunch of things.
Perfect. You've been standing there for a while, so
Thank you.
tell us your name.
Kathy Mashala, Oracle NetSuite, now in Los Angeles. So my question is for the entire panel. Now that more and more companies are allowing people to telecommute, work remotely, it's becoming harder and harder to get these relationships, to build mentorship. So how do you recommend people who are remote, especially remote in large companies,
That's a good question.
getting involved, getting themselves out there, making sure they're seen when they're at home on their computer most days?
That's a great question, and I think it also aligns with companies that have multiple locations, other than when you said Toyota's all together now. How do you build camaraderie when you, are at home or multiple locations? What do you, probably one of the two of you want to talk about that?
So just
Okay,
quickly for
sure,
me,
sure.
at Toyota, you have the opportunity to kind of build your own brand. So you have a specific job, but you can build your own brand and you can do things outside of what your job is to become noticed, right? And you make it big. So it depends on what you want to do and getting, being noticed by executives or individuals that you would want to be your mentor. So reaching out, being on LinkedIn, getting to know about them, and reaching out and seeing who it is you would like to be your mentor and or your sponsor in the company and connecting with them. So even though you're telecommuting, it doesn't mean that you can't set up a meeting, right? Or have lunch and get to know about them and get to know them and say, okay. And then once you get to know more about them and you think that maybe they can help you on your career path or what you're looking for, then you go from there.
That's perfect.
I think for us, it's a high-tech company, so we've got lots of technology. So technology is my friend. And so I do a lot of web meetings. So when people say, let's do a conference call, I'm like, turn your video on. I didn't comb my hair, me either, and I'm eating yogurt. It'll be okay, because it allows me to keep that connection.
Right.
I also leverage it to reach out to people quickly on IM. You don't mind texting me about the game. You could text me about, hey, do you have 5 minutes to talk? Or I saw you were in this community, can we chat about this? And so I tell those individuals that work remotely, and I've got a lot of global team members, the onus is on you sometimes for you to make those connections and to not allow people to forget about you. And so that's scheduling the one-on-ones, we call them, or the meetings, using your technology, or finding your communities. We do have Connexus, which is our ERG for folks that work remotely, and we have requirements that things that we do, training, it's got to be virtual too. Everybody can't get to a Dell office. And so we need to make sure that we ourselves provide an environment where people can still get the development and they still have an opportunity to make those connections. And while it at first is something that was very uncomfortable, as we all moved into it, people were like, they're not going to be working, what are they going to do? I'm not sure if they're getting their jobs done. I'm like, seriously? It's been one of our biggest retention tools.
Wow.
It's one of the things that
That's
people
fantastic.
come to us because of the flexibility that it offers, but you've got, with that comes a lot of responsibility.
Right.
So you've got to make sure that you're available, that you're responding in a timely fashion. But, I think the connections and the people that you have relationships with, you don't let those die either.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Can I jump to this question? We're good? Okay. Yes.
Hi, I'm Debbie Mars from Los Angeles, CEO of Gifted by Design, a branding company, and I'm a nonfiction author. I'd like for you all to expound just a bit about, hurt people hurt people. And I see a lot of infighting, catfighting. I'm a former corporate executive. If you would just share your wisdom just a little bit about tapping into our authentic selves and understanding what our secret sauce is, so if you really understand who you are, you're less likely to throw shade at other sisters. Thank you.
Can one of you answer that?
I'll try to do that one. I think it's important not for you just to understand who you are, but you need to be reaching out trying to understand that person as well. And a lot of times we don't want to be vulnerable, because when you're vulnerable, you allow people in. And if you have that fear that they're going to hurt you, you keep that wall up. But that's the worst thing that you can do. You're going to have to allow yourself to be vulnerable in order for people to connect with you.
Yeah.
And once you learn what's going on inside of that person's head and their heart, you can figure out how to go about managing that relationship. And a lot of times what we try to do, we're either on one end or the other. You either want to be very liked as a person or as a leader, or you're on the opposite end of this, where you get this, she's angry, she's aggressive, and she doesn't want to interact.
Right.
So you have to figure out how to balance and walk that fine line in order for individuals to want to think that you are accessible. And people can, to me, they pick up on who you are, and they pick up on what you're presenting out to the world. And if you're presenting that you don't want to be bothered, then you're not going to be bothered. But if you're presenting, I'm approachable, I'm accessible, then I think people will kind of feel comfortable letting their guard down a little bit. But once you let that guard down, if someone takes advantage of that, then you have to know how to manage that. And I think a lot of times what we will do, we let our emotions drive us. You need to be more strategic on how you think and how you act. And sometimes you need to step back and don't allow your emotions to drive you. You make better decisions when you don't do that.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go there. Yes.
Hi, Danielle Pemberton Hurd from Diversified Search, Washington, D.C. Deb, thank you for the shout out earlier. I have more of a comment. I think all of the conversations about knowing yourself are extremely critical. And I think it's also important that in knowing yourself and having complete confidence in your own abilities, you're able to be giving of yourself and your time in terms of referring people. And I speak personally coming from the executive search space, where oftentimes we reach out to individuals looking for leads, for recommendations for individuals for certain opportunities. And almost uniformly, mostly women, women tend to be very reserved. They don't necessarily sing their praises, and they're also very reluctant to make referrals, somehow believing that if the referral isn't perfect, that it's somehow a reflection on them. And I just want to encourage every woman in this room to know that you are enough, and if you believe in someone, speak up for them, refer them, because when we speak to men, and especially majority men, they don't care. They have no skin in the game. They will give 10, 12 names. And if they're giving 10 or 12 names, odds are one of those 12 people, their friends that look like them, are going to get the opportunity. But we're very reserved, and we really need to speak up and support each other.
Danielle, I actually think that is a question. I think, Najuma, when you talked about being a champion, right, and when you're willing to risk that, have you had that?
People supporting.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
another woman of color in the workplace or not, has somebody done that for you, and why do you think they did it for you? To Danielle's
Person of
point.
color, candidly, no.
Okay.
That has not happened, and that is one of the saddest experiences that I've had, which is why I have a different commitment, because it won't happen again now that I'm in this space, in this seat. But have people support me? Yes, and they didn't all look like me. And that's why it was so important for me to have the right type of relationships and to establish the right types of relationships and to open myself up to that. But what we have to do, and I think to go through, to build off of that, is we have got to take more chances on each other.
Right.
And
There
we
you
have
go.
to be more comfortable doing that, doing it publicly, being very open about it, and letting them see us, because we always want to look at the other and say, well, I don't know why you don't. They're like, well, you're not either. And so if we're not going to, then they feel no obligation to. And so one of our responsibilities, again, is when you have those situations, to be candid about it and to talk about it. And people are going to be successful and they're going to fail. That's life. It's okay. So when they're not as successful, it doesn't mean it's a hit on you and you never do it again for 10 years. Okay, I learned from that. Let me assess what didn't happen. Let me give that individual feedback, and let's keep it moving, because that's what we've got to do to be effective. We will never reach those 2030 goals I talked to you about if we don't do that.
Perfect. Last question.
All right. Fran Dillard, Lockheed Martin Corporation. First of all, I want to thank you for your great insights and your leadership, and most of all, your advocacy for women of color. I want to ask the question around, we talk about camaraderie amongst African American women. And when we have a conversation about women, from a national perspective, people envision white women. And so my question is, how are you extending that conversation around camaraderie with your white female counterparts to support and educate and encourage advocacy for women of color from our white counterparts?
Alva, do you want to answer that one?
Let me start that.
Go ahead.
She said, "Child."
I think with our white female counterparts, education is key. And their interest, education about our culture, education about the lack of for women of color. And so if you're, having these conversations and they understand the issues, as opposed as we just say, we're just going to do this, I think that it's okay, it's more accepted. But sometimes, because it's a privilege, and sometimes they don't understand that they're in a privileged zone, and that diversity and about women is mostly meant for white women a lot of times. And so it's important that we have these real hard discussions with them about, these are the facts, and these are the things that are happening, and these are, the statistics in our own company right now. So having those real, positive conversations and giving them information, I think that will help them to understand, wow, I didn't understand this.
Right, that's
I
great.
didn't know that.
So we're going to close out with this. I'm going to
Thank
stay
you.
with you, Alva. Can you give these fabulous ladies and enlightened gentlemen one thing that they can do when they leave this space to go back to build some healthy camaraderie? I'm going to start with you, Alva.
Being open, non-judgmental, and, you know, being your sister's keeper.
Okay.
I think
Najuma.
for each of you, I want you to go out and meet a new person, one. That's all I need you to do is go meet one new person and add them to your network, and you connect with them every other month. We're very busy. Connect with them every other month, someone you
Okay.
don't know.
I love that. All right.
I think the other thing that I would recommend is for you to have your own agenda, regardless of which meeting you go to. A lot of times you're invited to meetings and there's an agenda set, but walk into that room with your agenda and ask those individuals and say, okay, this is what I want to talk about, and anticipate what they want to talk about. Include them on your agenda, but add your own things so that they can at least know what you're thinking about and what you may want to do as well. And if you begin to build your own agenda, and they're going to start to listen, especially when you can back it up with the credibility that you have,
Right.
the preparedness
I love
that
that.
you have, and the fact that they know you can do the job. Do it
Yes.
well, do it often, and don't be afraid to allow somebody else in to help and support you.
I love that. I'm going to ask you ladies one thing. I'm going to add to this in closing and to say, I'm going to ask you to amplify other women. Yes. Okay. I found out when Crystal Ashby was named the CEO of ELC, I don't think I've seen her in years. I sent her a note on LinkedIn, kudos, congratulations. When she found out about my new job, she did the same. We have the only African-American female enterprise-wide CEO of a Fortune 100. If you don't tweet that, use that organization, and amplify that, there'll be more. So make sure you're using your hashtag, BEWPS, right? Meet other women, but don't be afraid to amplify other women, whether they work with you or they're in other companies, because that's how we're going to build more. Thank you so much. Please thank Alva, Najuma, and Rita.
Good job.
Shot? Okay. You're more than welcome. So this way.
Hi, my name is Chloe Barze. Is the mic on? Hi, this is, yeah, okay.